Hi. Welcome to episode 129 of Currency. I wonder what I will talk about. I don't even quite know. It's me per the episode. It's one me and then 1 hour of the episode, like the film, like the context. It's me and it's a context. Like I'm an actor. I'm the actor. I'm the active point of it. But then also there's like this context that doesn't move, like the building that contains me, like the room, the background is part of it that I exist in. Like I could be doing this outside, but and that would still be a context. But with a building, it's with a building, I'm just trying to. I have this other point that I want to say that's more interesting than what I'm going into now. I'm trying to hold on to it. The building, and it has to do with personhood. So personhood is the key word. The magic word is personhood, and I will cite that in a few minutes. But it's just like me and a background, me and a context. The context is kind of like the frame that contains me. It's like the camera that contains me. I like appearances. I like talking about appearances. I wish I was better with appearances. Sure, socialize outside of that. Socialization is so it's better. That's a word that I've been using recently to help myself socialize. Is the word socialization. Like it pays to be good at socializing, but like once I realize that if I'm in a social setting, that this is like where socializing is happening, then I'm okay, then I feel free to socialize. Like it's okay, like this is just socializing, so I don't have to feel bad about trying to socialize, because that does happen. Maybe I wanted capitalism or something. Capitalism is for individual. But like when you're socializing, that's not really for individualistic behavior. And so I need to remind myself when socializing is happening sometimes, only because I use a different tool to help myself get by in a social setting. Like it doesn't before socialization, it would have been like you are something I'm telling myself temporarily. This is always happening to me because it's never like I don't have anything that makes me permanently okay. I only rest on temporary things that make me okay to say things to people. I'm like, oh, you have the standpoint, like you have the right to speak to people because you are a person just like they are. That might be one of them that I use. I tell myself, you're a person just like them or whatever. I'm saying like I rely on some different word for which there's a feeling behind the word that's giving me confidence. I have to confide in different temporary things because I don't have a permanent one, and it's been like that my whole life, even when I was a Christian and when Christianity is supposed to be that permanent fix. Even then, I did not have any permanent. It's only ever been temporary reasons why I allow myself to be around other people. That and they're like, oh, this word or this phrase is the reason why. And there's a lot of them. I just can't. It's just kind of like all a blur looking back. I can't really think of very good specific ones. But one that I'm using currently is like, this is socializing. So it's like you can be as socialist as you want. Like you can be as communal as you want. So I shouldn't prevent myself from being, you shouldn't, like, you have to be a socialist. And I'm saying that, like, I know that it's the political ideology, socialism. You have to be a socialist sometimes. You can't be the same person everywhere. You can't be yourself everywhere. Because, like, that might be a tool you could use. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. Like, be yourself. That's one that people use to get by. That's like a superficial one. But I don't know. It's not superficial for someone. For someone, it means a lot. But I'm saying I gotta be a socialist person sometimes. I gotta be a capitalist person sometimes. Maybe it's better. Like, it's important to find the right setting to be the things. Like, this is a individualist setting. Me just recording myself by myself. That's individualistic, narcissistic, capitalistic. The reason why it's capitalist is individualist is because look at all the skyscrapers in a city skyline. Look at them. Go and look at them. See them. Find them. Look at them. See it. Skyscrapers. Those are just different visions of different corporations or enterprises. Each one of them, it like they create like the tall buildings in a city skyline are that's like a corporation captured the idea of themselves into this building, this projection they had, and they projected it into a real life project that is an ongoing project. Like if there's a building in a city skyline that's notable enough, tall enough that people are like, oh, that's the whatever building. That's the John Hancock building. That's an ongoing project that it's a projection of the John Hancock, whoever they are, if it's even called that anymore. They encapsulated the vision, the dream of their enterprise into a tall building that is now part of everybody's collective imagination because everybody has to see it, especially if it's tall enough, and then, like, as a byproduct of that, noteworthy enough, memorable enough. I mean, the materialization factor. It materializes, but anyway, that they captured the idea of themselves in the form of a physical building. That's like the context. I guess it helps to have a frame. It helps to have a context, security, a facility that I am in within as I do this podcast. And really, visually speaking, as far as the viewer is concerned, it's like the screen is the building. The screen is the context that contains me. And it's really unfortunate. I think that we don't pay enough attention to the context. We just pay too much attention. We pay all the attention to the actor, the active person on the screen, the entertainer. The context is in the background, obviously. But, like, these different enterprises capture the vision. Anyways, personhood is, well, I was going into, like, contexts. Whatever. I like that the projection, the word projection is just like the word project, because a building that is a mainstay either in the city skyline or just in the neighborhood or just wherever. It could just be the Dunkin' Donuts that's been there for 20 years. That building it's like an ongoing project. It's a construction. It's a construct that everybody is agreeing to keep believing in, that they keep it around. I mean, like, it's not just that you see it. Obviously, with a Dunkin' Donuts, you have to interact with it in order for the belief to be real. Like, restaurants and businesses that stay open, people engage with them, interface with them, go in and out of them. They get exchange, they get trade. Things that get trade. The things that get the most trade are the most valuable, or the most memorable, or the most visible, because they appear the most. The most transactions of a thing is kind of the more real that it gets. I'm talking about money. US dollar is a reserve currency. It's like the most traded currency, because, and then anytime it's traded or anytime a transaction occurs, there's a record of that somewhere in a bank or whatever. And the record is, the proof of record is the important part of it, that's like, goes hand in hand with why it is the reserve currency, is because it's the most recorded currency, because of the most transactions. But I'm talking about how trade is the most valuable, most materializing. Trade is very valuable. Trade, look at Hong Kong. It's just like at the center of the location of it is like it's in the hub of Southeast Asia where all the most people are. And you see what results. You see how Hong Kong flourishes in terms of like buildings, skylines, in terms of materialization of buildings and enterprises being able to materialize the vision of their enterprise into physical buildings or whatever. Like Hong Kong is this big trade hub, but you see how valuable Hong Kong is, obviously, just by looking at it. But the amount of money that's in Hong Kong, just because of its location, in terms of like trade is happening across so many different nations right there. But projection, it's the Dunkin' Donuts that's been there 20 years is like it's still an ongoing project because people are ongoingly imagining it to exist, and it's not by accident. It's like serious. It's a serious thing. The more that it exists, because that's the more that people are like, yeah, this is a real thing, and we believe in it. The community has to believe in like any one of the buildings that's in the neighborhood for years and years. The community and everybody believes in it. It has to do with as simple as people looking at it. The appearance of it matters that much. So obviously, like Dunkin' Donuts has to do a good logo and something, color scheme to give themselves an identity, and so that it's not ugly and people are like, oh, that's unattractive. But like it has to be just like it. I'm saying it has to be down to the fact that enough people are willing to look at that thing in order to make it exist, in order to believe it. Like seeing is believing. But I'm talking about how much appearances matter. And when it's a projection of your imagination, I'm saying like all buildings and houses, everything you see they're projections of our imagination, but they're especially the projections of the imaginations of the people that created them. But it's really like the longer that the thing exists is the more that it is a project as opposed to projection. But we get rid of the restaurants that go out of business because people aren't willing to look at them, or they're just like they're not positing enough good energy, positive energy. There's enough positive. Anyway, I don't know that any of that is like too terribly significant, but like a person, I'm the actor on the screen. I'm the actor in real life. Everything, it's kind of, I'm starting to feel as though all of it is a stage. You can go into religion and then that'll take away from this idea that I'm putting forward right now, which is that life is a stage and you're just an actor on the stage. Alan Watts, I believe is his name, is a guy that talks about this and has influenced me saying this at this moment. That life, the world is a big stage. But like, I think it's possible that life is a giant stage and it's like performing in any kind of way or doing stand-up comedy. That when you die, your buddies in the afterlife will give you shit for you having a good set or a bad set. They'll like praise you or not praise you. They might congratulate you or give you shit for whatever happened during your set while you were on stage, just during life. Like life is a stage. I'm an actor in every situation, and I'm only able to say that looking at life like it is one stage out of a number of stages. Like I'm of the belief that you get other lives. You get other lives, and I could go into why I believe that that's true, but I'm not going to because that's difficult to explain. It's just because frequency and everything is defined by its frequency, and frequency is a recurring, recycling thing, and it doesn't and the cycle is doesn't end at a life. Like a lifetime is just a bigger cycle containing very many cycles, like days and years or whatever. Lifetime is just one of those. It's like a word for a year or something. I believe. I think that it just keeps cycling and you get more lifetimes after the one. We just are unable to see beyond when a lifetime ends because we're limited in our knowledge. Are humans, and we don't want to approach death because and we gave Jesus the power to take care of death so we don't have to think about it so much. We're like, Jesus is the guy that did. And so I think as a result of that, it makes death funny. You can do jokes about death because of how much people run from it. I think people running from death more than they give it credit for, more than the world acknowledges. People are afraid of death more than they think, and the reason for that is because we're not, like Norm Macdonald said, like one of his jokes at some point, maybe in a interview, like, why aren't we trying to cure death? Like the politician that comes out and says, I want the cure, let's try to figure out the cure for death, like that's the person I'm voting for. There isn't really any speak of something like that. Sounds like ridiculous or fantastical to be like, oh, somebody's going to come up with a cure for death. But I mean, literally, there's a futurists, or at least Ray Kurzweil says, within 10 years, we'll be able to cure all of the diseases that are most killing us, and we'll be able to, at some point, be able to live forever because we'll be able to recode our DNA to give ourselves long-lasting life. I believe that that's true. I don't see, based on the amount that technology has improved just in my lifetime, I don't see any reason to not believe that we'll come up with the ability to make ourselves live forever. But, like, the reason that we haven't is because we're just giving credit to Jesus to keep us instilled in a environment, safe environment, where we don't have to question the ability to give ourselves long-lasting life because we all know that we're going to die or whatever. It's just centralization and stupidity. Like, giving death over to a centralizing figure, giving credit for the power of death to one figure rather than to very many individuals. The more intelligent we get is the more that we see power over death to be given to very many individuals, and that's what will happen when we are able to recode DNA to give ourselves a very long life or whatever, or like be able to live forever. I mean, it's because we're living in the Bible, and the Bible espouses values of only God is able to give people long life, and like a number of books into the Bible, people started to live much shorter lives, and it was as a result of something that God decreed, basically. Allowing ourselves to be God allows us to do basically anything. The humans just haven't overcome God. They don't think that they can. We're still given over to religions and superstitions and whatever it is. And personhood, I just wanted to say that being a good person has to do with socializing. I wanted to say why I think individualism is like capitalism, and then I started to go into like all this shit about skyscrapers. I didn't explain that. It's because a corporation is an individual. A corporation is a capitalist entity. It is that because it has a cap in terms of money, in terms of net worth, that is a different level different ranking than every other company. And so all of these companies compete not just within their given field, not just all of the banks within banking or whatever, all of the financial advisory firms within financial advising. Not just that, the different corporations across very many different fields, whatever, like allow the Baltimore Ravens to compete with Sony. I'm saying all corporations, all everywhere across boundaries, whatever, they're all different caps. They're all different levels in terms of net worth, in terms of money, how much they are. And that's what capitalism is different, is that you rank everything. And you can only rank everything if everything is on its own level, is set apart individually. And it's the city skyline use is this same picture of capitalism. That's a symbol of capitalism, because all of the different buildings have different levels, and they all of a different level. Not like the level in comparison to the levels of other buildings is representative of that building's net worth. I'm not saying the tallest buildings represent the richest companies. I'm just saying that all of the buildings are at different levels. It's a picture of capitalism, because that's what makes capitalism different from socialism, is very many different levels, ranking an acknowledgeable, where you can see the ranking system, where it's like, in terms of money, this company's worth more than this one, that's number one, this is number two, this is number three. Richest people in the world rankings are also very capitalist. This is a picture of capitalism. Socialism is when everything is evened out and there aren't different levels. And I prefer capitalism from an economical standpoint. But in my own individual life, I can't be a capitalist everywhere. Like socialism is so valuable, like, because don't consider it in its political, by its political implications, socialism. It's so important to be socialist just to socialize, because you have to be a socialist to socialize properly. And I'm saying, make it so that you are doing shit for the good of the community just in the room that you're in for the time being. The community, you have to be a communist. You have to be a socialist just to more optimally interact with people. So you can't, even if you're like, yeah, I'm a capitalist, like, don't like get so much into that you lose sight of the importance of being a socialist. And what I'm saying is how the political life of something is so much different than the thing that it actually is. Like, when it becomes political, it takes on this completely different political life. And I'm saying a good example is socialism and capitalism. Take a moment to consider how socialism and capitalism play out in your individual life. You as a socialist, you as a capitalist, like, as you interact with people. And I'm saying the difference is, like, there's environments in your life where you're just alone. If you're just alone, these are more capitalist attitudes. And if you're with other people, these are more socialist attitudes. But it would be easy to lose sight of this, given the fact that most of the play that the terms capitalism and socialism get are in politics. And it's the same as, like, transgenderism becomes this big political issue, but the life of transgender people is so much different from the whatever way that transgenderism is discussed in politics. Like, when Dave Chappelle makes the comments about transgenders in his Netflix special, and then he gets, there's this uproar, there's all this outrage about it. The outrage is because transgenderism is on the dividing line between conservatives and liberals, and it's this hot political issue. And because it's in the middle, people just use it to further their agendas, even when their agendas aren't related to transgenderism, because there's lots of transgenders that don't involve themselves in politics. Like, the day-to-day life of a transgender person really has nothing to do with the political life that transgenderism as a political topic takes on. That's just a standpoint that people hide behind to push their agendas and push their arguments. They use transgenderism and be like, oh, see, whatever other thing. And so, like, when Dave Chappelle did that thing, when you talk about transgenderism, people that don't like Dave Chappelle, don't like comedians, don't like individuals who speak where it's like we can't control them because they can just get up on a stage and say whatever about the government or any people group. I would say liberals that don't like comedians who can say whatever, or anybody who can say whatever, use transgenderism to try to silence comedians in that particular case. But the right uses transgenderism to silence the left by saying, look, they're crazy. They think that they can go from one gender to another or whatever. And it's for, they're using transgenderism to speak to some larger idea where they're like, things should just stay the same no matter what. And I'm saying like the political life of it is just a story. And I was talking about this in the last episode. And it's for a world that's governed by history, where it's like looking back, you had to have this story. And the like political ones become bigger, grander stories, phenomenons. Like abortion is this big phenomenon because of its political life. But like, compare the way that it's talked about publicly on this grand scale or at debate stages between presidents, abortion. Compare that to like somebody getting an abortion. It's completely different because like that the way that people speak about it generally, just in a way to argue with each other, doesn't really speak anything to when you actually get the abortion. But I'm saying like how the story of it blows up to be this big thing. But like in your day-to-day life, it isn't like that. It's the same as like how the news makes it out to be that everything is horrible and scary. There's murders and deaths and bombings. And then you look outside and there's just like, there's a couple people walking down the sidewalk. There's someone walking their dog. Like there's not, I mean, at least in America. But even if you were over in Kenya, it's not like there's people getting bombed. If you're in if you're in one of those shitty countries, not Kenya, like Sudan or whatever. Sudan, someplace where they're bombing, even there, like the chances are you look outside and it's like peaceful in any given frame of reference with any place you're standing within Sudan. It's not likely that there's bombings going on. It's just like, in that case, the tragedy. But that people blow something up, that happens that same way everywhere. But don't recognize that it happens with socialism and capitalism, where I gotta plug my phone in. Let's see if we can reach it here. Let's see if this will affect too much of the frame or whatever. That should be good. I hope it's plugged in. Yeah. It's gotta be. Fuck, shit, I hope that it's plugged the fuck in, but so that my phone charger just doesn't die. And I'm talking about, like, it's interesting how the political thing, and then compare that to how it plays out individually at this so much smaller scale. And there's, like, I can look at my life and see there's different regime changes. Like, different eras of my life where it's like some political movement took over my brain, and then like now I'm doing something else, and it's like a coup d'etat that happens in my brain, or that has happened at various times. And some people are more like a third world country where the government isn't stable and there's new regimes taking over all the time. That's what insecurity is. And that's what I'm talking about with these temporary like phrases or ideologies that I use to govern myself, to help myself get through the thing the way that I need to. And there's smaller temporary ones, there's more permanent overarching ones that are behind that give me some greater amount of safety, whatever. I'm not saying like I'm only governed by temporary phrases all the time. There's obviously like a different layer of cycling happening behind that. The same as like days, weeks, years. All of those cycles are happening at the same time, just at different rates. I have a day-to-day rate of temporary phrases that I'm confiding in, ideologies. But I'm saying like different shit takes hold in my life where I'm like, this is the era. It's the same as like, look at the history of a country, or like look at the history of America. Like at the beginning, Puritanism was this really big thing, and even today, Amish is still around. It just doesn't influence a ton of the culture. But I think that a person is like this. A person is like a microcosm of a country. And I mean, depending on how complex they are, but like they have a bunch of different competing ideas within themselves. And that's why I say, I have said in the past that paranoid schizophrenia, but I'll just say schizophrenia is not something to be afraid of, because it kind of describes this idea how a person is composed of very many different ideas or different voices trying to win the argument, trying to be the voice that guides the ship or takes control of the person. And I would say that this is definitely true of myself, but it's not just like in the moment. There's a number of different ideas that could take hold and guide me in the direction that either I want. And it's like you gravitate towards the voices and the ideas within yourself that you want, or at least hopefully you do. Hopefully you don't go towards things that undo you, shit that you don't want. But it's there's negative and positive energies, ideas that come forward. But I'm saying this doesn't just happen in the moment. This is like year after year, my entire life. I can look back at the history, and it's like when like in China, like, oh, the communists took over at this point, and then things were completely different. And like, I'll give you a more concrete example. Like around May of last year, this idea started to take hold in the empire of me, my empire of myself. And it was that I deserve credit, and I'm not asking people for credit enough. I'm like, I should ask people for credit. The idea was like, I'm a person that wants credit more than other people. And I think, and up until that point, May of 2023, I'm like, oh, you're not asking for credit enough. This was brought to my attention, just data I gathered or whatever. This idea is taking hold of my psyche. That, like, you should ask for credit. You're a person who wants credit more than other people or something. Because I record myself. And record, I like that recorded, transactions recorded. Anyway, records, the more records that there are, the more materialization, more money. Money is just so related to recording. And that's why everybody is making money these days, just like recording themselves. Putting something on record is what makes it money, is what gives it an identity, materializes it. It reaches such a deeper level of materialization when it is recorded. Because, like, you have this permanent record as long as that recording exists. You have either a transaction or a video you make of yourself. It can go on forever and ever, but it's the same as a building within a city that, like, the longer it lasts, you're talking about this record, this recorded thing. It's the same as if it was on camera all the time. That's how many people are seeing it constantly. If it's in, like, the middle of a busy neighborhood, a building, like it's like it's on video. It is like that it is on video, the building. And so but anyway, the regime of me, the empire of me, the idea that I had thought about that was taking hold in my brain was that I'm somebody who should get credit more because I record myself. And this fell out of power then. Since May of last year, that idea gradually fell out of power, and like new political parties are taking over in my brain, pushing forward with something else. I don't know if I will settle on anything ever, but it's like, it's the same way we have different presidents, different political parties that fall in and out of power over the years in America. Like a different president will come forward with a different idea, and then I will move forward like following that president just like as an idea, because in my brain, not that it's like a fully formed person or fully formed character, but it's like I end up taking on the character of the idea, but that's the only way that the idea materializes. So when people can physically see it or experience that idea taking shape in your life, and so other people would have been able to note, like, maybe would have been able to take away or judge me, define me by this characteristic that was taking over around little less than a year ago. It's like I want credit or something. But now that political idea is falling out of power in the empire that is my life, because I think that it's kind of lame to ask for credit. Like, it should just be not that I was like trying to ask for credit. It's just like, what's lame about it is being a person that wants credit or whatever should already be evident. So I'm not interested in like, oh, you have to like trying to get people to see you as somebody who wants praise more than other people. I realize is dorky, so I don't do that now. But like, I'm just evolving. But it's only because I hadn't considered credit, and credit was blowing my mind. Credibility, like, and I don't know what ended it, but something that has to do with why I didn't have to like go forward with like, oh, people need to see me as creditable, is because I gave myself the ability to not have to see myself as a victim. That was something that I realized a few months after May of last year. This new idea came into power, which was that I don't have to be the victim. And that's a very freeing thing, because I was like, I realized, oh, I do kind of make myself look like the poor guy, like under the gun, given like bad circumstances. I was unlucky. I guess like I kind of do carry myself that way somewhat in life. Like, I guess I do play the victim. That's what I realized. And I was like, oh, I don't have to. And once I realized that, I'm like, don't do that. And I'm like, I don't have to be the victim anymore. That doesn't mean I won't be given over to that at times. I don't know how much it permeated my life, was influencing my like victimhood, because it's something that I liked and that I cherished for a number of years. Like, I was attracted to the idea of that, like being a victim. It's so hard not to. It's so hard, in my defense, it's so hard not to gravitate towards like being a victim in the world we live in that sensationalizes tragedy, gives credit to people victims that dies. I mean, I'm a big horror movie fan, and the thing about horror movies is that everybody in the movies are victims, because victims are real. It's not a fake thing. It's not, and that's part of what I realized in overcoming that I would have to be one, is that victims are real. People really are victimized. It's not just like, oh, are you playing the victim? And like, we kind of have this attitude like victims are always fake, but it's like if a drunk driver broadsides your car and then you're paralyzed after that, you're definitely a victim. There's real victims in the world. Somebody who gets epilepsy, that's a victim, especially if it's the worst that it is. Like, victims are real. And so in a world that's like makes so much out of the victims, praises them endlessly, people that died, people that were victimized and died, the world praises them. It's easy to want to be like that. In my defense. And I'm just saying, like, so it's easy to play the victim. And so I realized, like, oh, I don't have to be the victim anymore. The same as James Cameron is talking about when he made the Titanic, and then Leonardo DiCaprio came up to him. This is a video, I forget which channel it is, that makes all the videos that are like, the director recounts all of the best movies that he made, as the most memorable films. And they have one with James Cameron, and he's talking about when he made Titanic, Leonardo DiCaprio came up to him and was like, hey, my character doesn't have any like flaw that he's overcoming. He wasn't like, he didn't have like he's not a cripple or anything, and he's like has to deal with that Like, he doesn't have any difficulty in his life. And James Cameron was like, no, the thing is that Jack, the character you're playing, doesn't have any of those things. He's just a guy. And that's more difficult to play than somebody who has this debilitating flaw, because to just stand there on screen and play a guy that's just a guy that has none of these excuses to hide behind is a more difficult challenge as an actor. And I think that that's not just true of that movie. I think that's true of real life, is that people always want to have an excuse to hide behind. And it's more difficult just in real life, as you are, to just stand there and be like completely normal and not. And I would say for me, an excuse I would like to have is like, I'm special. I'm more like, I might hide behind like, oh, I'm too separate from regular people to be a regular person, or whatever. I'm too capitalist. Go into those capitalist tendencies. I allow myself to be like socializing, and that's more in the realm of acting like a normal person. But like, it's harder. I think that that's just a really profound point James Cameron is saying, is that it's harder. I think it's true of real life. Like, it goes beyond the acting in a movie. It's harder to just be, it's not like, I want to say be yourself, but yourself is too complicated. Like, for me, yourself is kind of a collection of different artifices that I'm putting forward, where, like I said, each artifice is one of these temporary phrases I use. Like, but beyond the artifices, there's a deeper level of better artifices. Like, I'm not completely artificial or anything. Or at least I hope I'm not. Or at least I portend to be. At least, I mean, I want to be. There's deeper levels, the artifices. And so, anyways, not being a victim, that's something that I was able to tell myself to do. Only because I was able to define the idea, define it as, this is something that affects me, and that's down to intelligence. Be intelligent enough to define different ideas, and then, like, that can help you out to overcome whatever. But I'm just letting you know, I'm just transmuting this information about victimhood to, no, I mean, hopefully somebody else could hear that and use that as a tool to help them overcome judgments that they have, that they might want to overcome. Because it's like, victimhood is a sort of a judgment I was imposing on myself. Yeah, and just speaking to it does make it more dramatic, make it sensationalize it more than the thing that actually happened. Just like I was describing before, like the story, me retelling the story of this is not how it happened at the time. Because stories are kind of just like bullshit, because they're words recounting something that was just like an action that happened at the time. And it is more given, the political life of it is more public. Just that I'm making it public is kind of more in line with something that's more political, or something I'm using in a governing sort of way. And it has to do with history, having a story. People use stories to say that they have the ability to govern somebody else, as in the pecking order, authorities, whatever, looking back. But personhood, I think that I think that life is a stage, but then, I mean, obviously, then, like, if you're a performer in some regard, you have different stages within the stage that happen more frequently than the stage, and than the stage of life. The stage of life is just one big giant dream, you could say. I won't be so callous as to call it a dream, because it's so real, and because we can't see beyond the end point of it. It would be ignorant to call it a dream, but like the life, it's so real. But like the Just the fact that shit that happens in real life, like a live performance or a live building in the neighborhood, that building is live, like, especially when it's a business that people are going in and out of all the time. It's live and in person. It's a show. The building is a show. Especially when it's a skyscraper that's like tall and like millions of people going in and out of the freeways all the time that don't even live in the city that see it. Like, that building is live and it's performing constantly. It's a project. Like, project is a good description for it because it's the end result of a projection of somebody's imagination that resulted in this project, construction, construing. It's a construing. And a building is a collective construing. People are construing its existence and its meaning within the community constantly as time changes around it. So the context changes around it. But it's interesting when you get a skyline and then when it gets like set in place that they're not making new buildings all the time, that it's like that context becomes more engraved, more statuesque, where it's the same thing, where the context gets set in this more permanent way, like the outline of a city skyline that is like people can redraw it. The context, but the personhood is what I want to say is what makes you a good person makes you socializing. That's the mark of a good person, because person is a word for oh, that was terrifying. That was the sound on my laptop is screwy. And being a good person means being able to talk to people well, being able to socialize well. That's a good person. I don't think it doesn't have much to do with morality besides that morality is more communal. Morality is good. Morality is good, and good is collectivizing. Bad, evil is more individualizing, separating things. Evil is more individuals all in different places. Good is moral, and it's collectivizing. A communist, liberal. I don't know. That's not right. That can't be right. Liberals can't be good. Conservatives are bad. Liberals are good. But like, it's complicated. Conservatives want one nation. They want a collectivizing thing also. But a lot of conservatives are Christian, and Christians are, like, churches are just communist communities. Churches are just like a community. Churches are very socialist. There's a lot of socialism interwoven with capitalism everywhere. There's liberalism interwoven with conservatism, which is complicated to talk about on a really, at the, like, a really wide scale. The most objective scale possible. But person is a word for, like, an actor. If you go back and look at the etymology, that word arose in the early, I don't exactly know, I want to say like in the early few centuries AD, and it's a word for actors that wore a mask that allowed them to project the sound of their voice, and it's a word meaning paired with sonar, or sona, paired with the ability to audibly communicate your voice, paired, sewn. But anyways, it's a word for, and it applied to actors that were wearing masks. And these masks were the things that were the device that paired the sona. And this is another thing that Alan Watts has spoken about. And anyway, person is already a word for an actor on a stage, but being a good person means being a good actor, I believe. It means being a good character for other people that is relatable. It means being relatable. That other people like you, being able to relate yourself, being able to make yourself more commercial is being a good person. And I'm saying being a good person isn't about integrity or like following a list of things, checking off a list of boxes, like doing these good deeds. It's not about that. It's about socializing. That's what makes you a good person, is being a somebody who socializes. And so, like, being a bad person is somebody who just goes in their bedroom and sits in there 24 hours a day, doesn't talk to anybody or whatever. That's a bad person. And so, like, if somebody plays video games, that's socializing too. So it's like that could be considered a good person. It's easier to be a good person just staying in your bedroom all the time if you have a video game system. But like, I'm talking about personhood and having a, like, your personality, being good at having a personality. And you have to work on your personality. You have to work on your personality. The way that you work on your personality is you go out in public to be a person. And the more that you do that is the more that you become the person. The more that you work on it, whether it goes well or badly for you, socializing, the more that you do it is the more that you become that, regardless. That's the way that authority works. You give yourself the authority of a personality. The only way you can do that is going to work as a person. I mean that literally, like working. Personality is just like everything else. It's like you're working. It's a job. A personality is a job. It's something you have to work at to have a good one. And being a good person means going to work a lot, not at work specific, not at like a job, your desk job at Wells Fargo, not that. Personhood specifically has to do with working on your socializing, personality driven everything. Personality. So I'm saying, like, zero in on a personality and go to work as that. Don't just think about fucking work. Because, I mean, depending on what you value, like, I want my career to be good. Then obviously you're just, like, you're going to be focusing, you're going to be saying work. The only thing that work is, like, work, my job. But, like, work is everything. This is the point that I'm making right now. Work is every single thing. And you're always, like, an actor on a stage. You're always, there's all these opportunities to work on your personality. And, it's not just something you have. It's not just something you're born with. Personality specifically. There is something you're innately born with. It's like your soul that would be able to contrive all of these scenarios for yourself during the course of your life. Create them. Like, there's something behind the personality, but the personality is this more specific thing that surfaces. Like, I'm saying the personality is not nebulous. It's not like, it's not like you have one just like genetically, like, because people will get into the territory of saying, like, that's just genetics. And I think that is dismissive. It's dismissive to be like, you have a personality just because you were born into this family, and so, like, this is your kind of personality that aligns with them, because genetically. I think that is lazy. It's very... I'm saying we need to speak about a personality like it's this thing you have to work to achieve. A personality, specifically, is not just something it's not just something that happens. Like, you have to, it's difficult. You actually have to commit to a persona, commit to a character. I don't know it's not like you have to have this idea, like, I have the intention of being this character that does this. It's just like, the more that you go out into public, the more that a character will arise, no matter what. A personality will arise whether you like it or not, whether you do well or badly socializing. A character will arise the more that you do it. You'll have a personality the more that you socialize. But it takes going to work. And, I don't think you can really control the person. I mean, I'm talking about the way that you appear in everybody's collective imagination. You can control it. You put that image forward, the clothes you wear and what you say and how you act. Obviously. It's all under your control, but it's also like, if you want to be believed, like, the more that people see you is the more that the person is believable, I guess, as far as being a person is concerned. that specifically. Like, if nobody sees you, you're less of a person, I guess, is something I would argue for, but only because person. I'm saying like a person is an actor, and it's implied that with a person, that's somebody who's like going out into public. But like personality, uh, is like I think that personality isn't just the thing that people see. It's like all of the levels of artifices that you would put forward that might become your character. Like personality is a good word for all of the persons that you could be. Like the collection of all of the persons that a person is. Maybe personality is a word better suited for that. Like personality is kind of like the theory of the collection of all of like it's a word for the collection of all of the persons within a person is the personality. It's a wide it's a big word that could capture all of the different characters that you or somebody could end up being. Personality is a word for all of those, but buildings are buildings are not the same as people. I won't say that, even though it's sort of like what I'm talking about. People are like buildings because they're kind of the same on the outer. In terms of appearance, they look the same. They just age as they get older, the same as buildings do. But people are different from buildings. That's some of the information that I have to offer you. I differentiate between things. Come to me, I'll tell you a person is different from a building. But I'll also tell you that they're similar. It's like residential buildings just get a number, and then commercial buildings go so far as that they get a name. And people are kind of more like commercial buildings in that regard. And because commercial buildings are like putting on a show or a performance more. I think that is expected of people as well, especially when we're going so far as we're saying like we're to call people persons. I think that people are expected to be actors because they're given a name at the beginning as well, and they're more like commercial buildings than residential buildings in that regard, because residential buildings are just given a number to identify themselves, and people aren't like that at all. But I'd say a residential building is less the performer than a commercial building. Commercial building is more expected to perform just because it's given a title, but I mean that's like I'm talking about roles that you're given. Since people are given a title and given a name, they're kind of like expected to fulfill some sort of role. And I'd say that the more that you're like given over to like being a person is more worldly than not being a person, because it's like going out and characterizing yourself for worldly esteem. Like that's why you would want to be more connected with everybody on the earth in the world, as if you valued your worldly relationships. Like that's what I'm talking about in terms of personhood is more worldly like that. And but it's the same as I have temporary words fixes that I use. They're temporary roles that I have given myself. I'm fulfilling a role temporarily. Socializer. And for some reason, for me, I'm thinking like I need a role, probably because in the back of my mind, I realize that it's all just kind of like I'm an actor in every situation, because everything is theatrical, or in some regard. And But it's kind of like you're a more believable person. The character works for you. You can be relevant, and you won't be like a business that closes down. If you have a believable character, I think that you get a believable character by going out in public the most. And so that's like more worldly values. Being a person, I mean, just going out in public makes it so that you're more recorded. But like the people and the thing and the activities that are the most recorded in the world are the ones that like make the most money or are the most believable or talent. Like it's almost like talent, what we describe as talent, just kind of comes down to people that are being recorded. Like those are all the people that are talented, are the people that get recorded the most, and they get recorded more the more talented they are. Like podcasters today, like Shane Gillis gets more, the more talented he is, the more recorded he gets, because he gets asked to be on more and more podcasts and deeper like levels of famousness of the podcasts, like podcasts that reach more people, that are higher up on the rankings. That's what he'll get invited to. The more talented that he is, the more talented that you are, is the more recorded that you'll be. Just regardless, the more talented that you are, is the more longevity you have. Like as a recording artist, you make 10 successful albums, speaks to your talent, but your ability to keep being recorded. I mean, like, and it's not just recording the album, it's that everybody sees it and listens to it and hears it, even though like our ears don't permanently brand it into our brains, like whatever they heard. Even though that's not the case, it's still like the more people that see it and hear it is the more that you're creating this like memory that almost, that almost becomes permanent, but just that it's recorded on the natural recording devices of people's eyes and ears. The more talented you are is the more that you'll be recorded, the more that you'll be seen. And just like seeing things is having them on record to some degree, even though, but you get like a residential building and that's more private, and it's not going to be as on record as a commercial building that receives all of these transactions amongst very many people in the community. Like more people go in and out of the thing. That's what it's there for. That building gets a title like Dunkin' Donuts or whatever, and has to perform under that title, and don't know what I'm saying. People are different from buildings, but because buildings don't talk, they don't have a personality, they're not persons. But that is to say that it's valuable to be an actor, but the context of like buildings either that you're in or that are around you, they're kind of like competition. They compete. Corporations compete with individuals at some level. Like a corporation, Popeye's chicken will compete with Joe Rogan at some level, because they're both like their own corporation, you know. It's just the personhood of a person. It's just that people are expected to do it as persons with a personality. Buildings don't have to have a personality. They just have their company's identity, but you're welcome for but thank you, and I'll make more episodes later on. Goodbye.